For today's video, we're going to check out the increased fire rate for bows and the reduced charge time for chargeable weapons. But there were a couple of changes that came with today's patch that I wanted to point out first. First one being is that you can now put the Xenon Bow in the collection book. You still won't be able to research it from the collection book though, so in order to get it you'll have to either open caches or X-ray llamas. But you can now put it in the collection book. And the second thing I wanted to point out is that they also fixed the Affliction bug today. So there's no longer going to be infinite affliction on your weapons. They also made it to where the fire rate perk can also reduce the charge time for chargeable weapons like the Storm King's Wrath, the Zapatron, Crescendo, which can now have 2 fire rate perks. You can also reduce the charge time for the Noble Launcher, as well as the Monsoon and the Vacuum Tube Sniper Rifle. So for today's video, we're going to compare what these weapons look like with the fire rate perk and reduced charge time. And we're also going to check out all of the bows with the fire rate perk. And for those who are wondering how I got every single weapon with the fire rate perk,
turns out I know a guy who knows a guy who knows another guy.
No, we had a lot of people on Discord donate weapons. Big shout out to Max, Predator, Toxic, and Jake for donating most of these weapons for us to try out. Alright, so first we're going to start off with the Storm King's Wrath. Here's what the fire rate normally looks like without any fire rate perks. Oh, I don't have any ammo. And here's what the fire rate looks like without any fire rate perks. And here's what it looks like with the fire rate perk on it. It is a little bit faster. I also want to compare the charge time as well. So let's go ahead and check out the charge time without a fire rate. It takes about 2.5 to 3 seconds. Let's go ahead and try it with the fire rate. It took about 2 seconds. So it is a lot faster. And again, this is just with one fire rate perk. We could have put more on it. So that's what the Storm King's Wrath looks like with and without a fire rate perk on it. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Monsoon. And here's what the charge time looks like without a fire rate perk. It takes less than a second. And that's what the fire rate looks like. And here's what the charge up time and fire rate looks like with one fire rate perk on it. Definitely feels a lot faster. So it went from about a second to about half a second. And the fire rate increased. It almost feels like there's no charge up time at all, almost. Like I said, it's about half a second. So you can reduce the charge up time for the Monsoon as well. You can also reduce the charge time for your Zapatron. So here's what the normal charge time looks like for the Zapatron. It takes about 2.5 seconds. And here's what it looks like with the fire rate perk on it. It takes like less than 2 seconds. So again, here's the charge up time without the fire rate. About 2.5 seconds. And this one's about 1.5 seconds. So that's what the Zapatron looks like with and without a fire rate perk. The Crescendo was another one that had its charge time reduced whenever you add a fire rate perk. And they also added another slot where you can add another fire rate perk. So we're going to try it out with 2 fire rates. And we're also going to try it out with 0 fire rate perks on it. So here's what the normal fire rate looks like when you charge it. It takes like 4 to 5 seconds. Let's go ahead and try one more time. Yeah, it takes about 4 seconds. And here's what the charge up time looks like with 2 fire rate perks on it. It took like 2 seconds. So we reduced the fire rate by almost half by putting 2 fire rate perks on it. And let's go ahead and check out the regular fire rate while we're at it. Anyways, here's what the regular fire rate looks like when you don't hold it down. Very slow. And here's what it looks like with 2 fire rate perks on it. Oh man, that's much faster. Okay, so that's what the fire rate and reduced charge time looks like when you put 2 fire rate perks on the Crescendo. The Vacuum Tube Sniper Rifle is another weapon that can have its charge time reduced. And here's what it looks like without a fire rate perk. It takes about a second before it starts shooting. And here's what it looks like with a fire rate perk on it. It actually takes less than a second before it starts shooting. It almost feels like there's no charge time at all, almost. So you can almost completely take away the charge time for the Vacuum Tube Sniper Rifle. But yeah, that's what the charge time looks like for it. And the next one I want to take a look at is the Noble Launcher. And here's what it looks like without a fire rate perk. And this is what our fire rate looks like with 2 fire rate perks on it. Definitely feels a little bit faster. And this is how long it takes to fully charge it without any fire rate perks. So let's go ahead and fully charge it. Oh yeah, it took like a second to fully charge it. And again, this is with 2 fire rate perks on it. So just like with the others, not only does the fire rate increase the fire rate, but it also reduces the charge time. I also want to check out some of the bows, because after today's patch you can now put fire rate perks on them. And first we're going to start off with the boom bow. Here's what the fire rate looks like without any fire rate perks. And I am going to go ahead and fully charge it in order to show the difference. But yeah, that's what the fire rate looks like when you fully charge it. Here's what it looks like with it. It takes about a second. So that's what it looks like when you reduce the charge time for the boom bow. I also want to check out the cloud burst. And first we're going to check it out without any fire rate perks. And I'm going to fully charge this one as well. So that's what it normally looks like. Here's what it looks like with fire rate. Definitely feels a lot faster. It's like less than a second almost.
Leave me alone!
Next up, we're going to take a look at the compression burster. And first I want to see what it looks like without the fire rate perk. And I think this is going to be one of the bows you may want to put a fire rate perk on it, because look how long it takes to fully charge it. It takes like almost 3 seconds. So that's what it looks like without fire rate. And here's what it looks like with 1 fire rate perk on it. Still feels kind of slow, to be honest, even with 1 fire rate perk. So yeah, compression burster still one of the slowest bows, even with the fire rate perk on it. Next up we have the night fire, and first we're going to try it out without fire rate. So this is what it normally looks like, and this is one of the quicker ones. Look how fast that one is compared to the compression burster, much faster.
5 minutes left.
And this is without the fire rate perk. And here's what it looks like with it. Oh yeah, that's like half a second. That is super fast. So yeah, that's what the night fire looks like with and without a fire rate perk. Definitely one of the faster bows. Next up, we're going to take a look at the love song bow. And first, let's check it out without the fire rate. I say this one's probably one of the more average ones. It takes about a second or 2 in order to fully charge it. But here's what it looks like with the fire rate perk. It takes about less than a second. And I think this one had a reload speed perk on it as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we had a reload speed perk on it as well. But yeah, the charge time takes less than a second when you put a fire rate perk on it. Also want to check out the night owl with and without fire rate. And first, let's see what it looks like without the fire rate. This is another one of the bows that are a little bit slower than most. But yeah, that's what the night owl looks like when you fully charge it. And let's see what it looks like when you have a fire rate on it. A little bit faster. Still one of the slower bows though. Speaking of the night owl bow, supposedly black metal weapons now respect self-damage amount when performing critical hits. I'm not sure what that means, but I know the other day when I tried the night owl bow, I killed myself within like 3 hits. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and try it out. So yeah, it does feel a little bit better than when I tried it a few days ago. But yeah, that was one thing that supposedly came with today's patch. They fixed the amount of damage you take whenever you get crit hits with black metal weapons. The scrap shot was another bow that had its charge time reduced, and this one was already really fast. Here's what the charge time looks like without a fire rate perk. It almost looks like it has a fire rate perk on it, but this is the one that doesn't have it. Definitely one of the fastest bows, if not the fastest. I think night fire may be the second fast. And this is what it look. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's like no charge time at all. Wow. And this is with just 1 fire rate perk on it.
So yeah, if you put a fire rate perk on this, you should be able to...
So yeah, I think the scrap shot has the fastest charge time out of all of the bows. And I think the night fire has the second, or at least that's what it feels like. But yeah, that's what the scrap shot looks like with and without fire rate. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Instigator. And first I want to see what it looks like without a fire rate perk on it. And this is another one that feels sort of average compared to the other bow. Oh.
Well, I'm not done yet.
So yeah, here's what the fire rate looks like without a fire rate perk when it comes to the Instigator. Again, I would consider this to be average compared to other bows. And here's what it looks like with the fire rate perk. So it is a little bit quicker, but definitely not one of the fastest. We're also going to try out the powder keg bow. And here's what it looks like without a fire rate perk on it. And this is another one that feels sort of slow compared to other bows, or maybe average. But yeah, that's what the fire rate looks like without it, and here's what it looks like with it. So you'll be able to spam those explosives a lot quicker with the fire rate perk. I also want to try out the vacuum tube bow. Here's what the vacuum tube bow looks like when you charge it without a fire rate perk, and here's what it looks like when you put a fire rate perk on it. So you'll be able to reduce the charge time for the vacuum tube bow as well. So here's what the Vendor Tech Seeker charge back time looks like without a fire rate perk. Feels about average compared to the other bows. And here's what it looks like with the fire rate perk. Definitely feels a lot faster. And last up we have the Xenon Bow. And first we're going to see what it looks like without a fire rate perk. This is another one that sort of feels average. But yeah, that's what the charge back time looks like without it, and this is what it looks like with it. A little bit faster, but again, not one of the fastest bows when it comes to charge back speed. But yeah, that was pretty much everything I wanted to go over. Just wanted to show what the bows look like when you put a fire rate perk on them, and I also wanted to show what the reduced charge time looks like for the other weapons. But yeah, other than that, we really didn't get a whole lot with today's patch. We are supposed to get a new hero this Friday, and the bundle bus is also supposed to be returning this Friday. So obviously we'll check that out when those are available. But yeah, let me know what you think about these reduced charge times in the comments below. Hope y'all found the video useful, and thanks for watching.